President Trump says he wants long-term extensions of his takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police department. His control of the city's law enforcement right now lasts only for 30 days, unless Congress steps in and extends it. Jake Rosen, and I already know this, he's a Met fan, and that's okay, joins me now.
Thank you for having me.
Jake, the president said today he will seek approval from Congress to extend this, acknowledging, in his words, that 30 days not enough to deal with the crime situation here. But what's going on the streets of the District of Columbia? What do the crime statistics tell us about how rampant crime is or isn't, and how many people have been busted so far?
Sure. So we saw the White House tout the numbers directly, and it seems like they've been taking the lead on kind of the rollout every night or the morning after of what they've accomplished. We saw about 43 arrests yesterday, which ranged from anything from obviously gun charges to lower level robbery to carjackings, et cetera, all half involving federal law enforcement, half involving Metropolitan Police. And the White House said that there are about 1,400 law enforcement spread throughout the city doing these. However, as a resident of the city, I haven't seen them necessarily in my neighborhood. I live not necessarily in the best, not necessarily in the worst neighborhood, but again, at an early morning walk to the gym this morning, there was not a single federal law enforcement presence, on my 15, 20-minute walk each way. So I think it's certainly targeted to specific neighborhoods. I think we saw the photo out last night, which is exactly, and this morning, which is exactly what the White House wants, which is the National Guard posted up in front of the White House, in between the mall and Capitol Hill, where tourists are A, but B, what we saw actually was a lot of social media footage coming out today and from our affiliate station here in D.C. of tourists posing with them, locals here in D.C. saying, I'm sorry you have to be here, because quite frankly, the crime in D.C. does not happen on the National Mall, does not happen near the White House. There are certain sections of the city that are very vulnerable to it. You experience it if it lives here. That's in general what President Trump is referring to. However, when you don't leave the White House necessarily and go to those neighborhoods, how do you know how to fix it? And are they going to actually go to those neighborhoods?
And already those members of community from the most crime-afflicted parts of the city say we haven't seen anybody.
That, and there's a real fear that if this extension is for more than 30 days, that any kind of substantial connection between law enforcement at the local level here in D.C. could potentially be broken in terms of trust and long-term accountability vis-a-vis the community and the police. That if all of a sudden the federal government is in charge of policing these neighborhoods that are susceptible to crime, how do you restore that if there is some kind of National Guard push into these communities that really see that are vulnerable, but also see that really day-to-day, throughout the day, criminal activity that, again, is real here? I don't think we should pretend it's not. But, there's a real risk. And these communities, business owners, people are worried that how do you especially because D.C. is vulnerable for what President Trump can do legally here compared to any other major city, think about Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago, that he can keep this going, especially with a House and Congress that's in his control.
Right, but there will have to be negotiations with Democrats. There's a filibuster in the Senate. There are lots of hurdles there. We'll see if they're even navigated at all. But Jake Rosen, thank you for that perspective. I appreciate it very much.